NZ Aerosports, Icarus Canopies, now Gyro. That's right, we've rebranded, and Gyro is our next generation. It honours our founder, as that's the name we knew him by, but Gyro also marks the start of a new chapter. And not to be biased, but it's going to be fucking epic. Long story short, we're more us than ever, so if you're new to the sport, or even a Sky God Ninja Turtle, welcome. I think our valiant leader Lucy, Gyro's daughter, says it best.
And we still got that fuck your attitude. Rebrand! Woo!
Rebrand woo indeed, Lucy. Anyway, head over to gyro.com for more info and get amongst your legends.
I was 19, broke, unemployed, and sold my girlfriend's canopy for drug money. So I thought I better sew her a new one. What a sentence, and what a story. This describes the humble yet outrageous beginnings of NZ Aerosports, the home of Icarus Canopies, in the words of our founder himself. From getting a paratrooper toy from his mom, watching parachutes at the DZ as a 6-year-old, jumping off the wharf with a parachute made from bed sheets, doing his first jump at 16, sewing his first canopy on a borrowed machine at 19, and starting to sell parachutes out of a garage in 1986, Paul Gyro Martin had an undying love for the sky. Our company started with one man with the wildest of spirits and a true blue sky dream, a renegade. In the time that Gyro created and ran the Icarus Canopies brand until he passed away in 2017, he pushed everything he had to its limits. We miss him, and we always will. Gyro is the next generation of NZ Aerosports. It honors our founder, of course, because it was the name we all knew him by, but Gyro the rebrand also marks the start of a new chapter, our next jump. Gyro is the space between sound and silence, art and science, chaos and calm. Gyro is a state of epic tranquility that transcends understanding. That moment, in the door, in free fall, mid-swoop, where nothing but the present exists. A perfect balance of euphoria and thrill. Gyro captures our passion for flying and our commitment to designing break-the-fucking-rules canopies that deliver pilots pure, wild flight.
Coming straight from the cockpit, it's another episode of Lunatic Fringe with the fucking pilot.
Ready, set, go! All right, once again, we are back in the can for another edition of Lunatic Fringe Into the Void. I am the fucking pilot, and once again, the magic of the internet's doing me some big favors, and I got somebody else a long distance on the line to talk to me. So tell me, who the fuck are you, and what do you do?
What's up, man? My name is Mike Wittenberg, Dean.
Yeah.
And I've been jumping for a while, and flying in tunnels and speed riding, and yeah,
jumping out of shit and off of shit and in shit, just flying.
Yeah,
that's some cool stuff. So you do pretty much the whole gambit of air sports, really. I mean, the speed riding stuff, I only found out that you were into via the magic of Facebook and all that stuff. But you've been skydiving for quite some time now. When did you start jumping?
I think it's probably about 20 years ago, maybe. I don't know, like 16,000. Well, probably around 17,000 jumps now.
Wow.
But yeah, I think it's probably got to be close to 20 years. If I had one of those USFPA cards, it says it on there, but I always tend to lose them.
Sure. Well, and if you're anything like me, it's gotten to the time now where I'd like to forget how long it is.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
We've been in
my body hasn't forgotten, but
right. Well, I don't know about you. I mean, you tell me. Do you still feel like a fucking 18-year-old? Because I do.
I feel, you know what, it depends. It really kind of depends on how much time I'm in the tunnel at different points, because that tends to flare everything up. Like I was just in the tunnel for like an hour the first time, and it kind of reminds you of neck injuries and stuff like that.
Oh,
So
yeah. Oh, well, I mean, no, when it comes to pain and stuff, fuck, getting out of bed hurts me. I don't have to spend an hour in the tunnel, man. I think a year and a half ago, I broke my foot walking down the street on flat ground in flip-flops. So I'm a mess. Physically,
yeah,
mentally, I still feel like a kid, though.
yeah, definitely for sure. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's. I feel like, yeah, I could say I feel like I'm on my kids' level.
Yeah.
Sometimes I sometimes they take care of me a little. I wonder who's taking care of who more.
Oh, mine's dramatically more grown up than I am. Thank goodness.
Yeah,
Thank goodness. So
yeah.
how'd you get started in skydiving? Where was the first jump, or in air sports or extreme sports at all?
It was actually at I want to say it wasn't CSC because it used to be Chicagoland. When Andre owned the place,
And this was in
and
Hinckley, Illinois, yeah?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I went out. I used to snowboard semi-professionally,
Oh, wow.
and yeah, I lived in the mountains a long time, and I was like 26, which was old for snowboarding at the time, and I had been broken a whole bunch, and I was just kind of getting sick of going through the injury from season to season.
Sure.
And a buddy asked me to do a tandem, and I like boom, like as soon as I put down my card right away and was just like, AFF, let's do it.
Nice, nice. That's actually pretty much how it happened with me. I kind of started late in the sport too. I don't think I did my first jump until 26 or 27. So a bit of a late start, but both you and I think, made up for the time.
Yeah, for sure.
So you went balls out as soon as you made that first jump, huh?
Yeah, well, and it was also good to start late too because I had money, like I already had a job that I had started a landscape business that was the whole goal was just to always have my winters off. And so when I was already 3 years into it. So if I would have started when I was 19, I probably would have been, on a packing floor just trying to scrape for jump to jump. But I was just able to, jump as much as I wanted to right off the bat. So
Wow,
it was,
man, that makes
nice.
a big damn difference. Well, and I suppose, yeah, having a landscaping job in the Midwest, you definitely have your winters off.
Yeah, that was the whole point. I was like a snowboard, since I was 12, I was into snowboarding, and I graduated high school early and moved to a location in Wisconsin that had a half pipe, and I would come back for the summers, but I always wanted my winters up. That's probably one of the smartest things I think I've ever done, because like at 17, I knew that. And to this date, still, I'm taking my winters off in France, so that mindset since 17 hasn't really changed.
That actually clears up a whole lot of questions I had for you, because I got to admit, I keep watching Facebook going, how in the fuck are they're in this location and that location doing all this cool shit? I'm like, man, how in the hell do you take an entire family to France for that long? How? Now I know.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely been lucky with the business, but yeah, and then with the kids, you just got to bring them wherever you want, man. You either you're gonna let the kids dictate your life, or you're gonna take them where you want to go.
Sure.
And yeah. I've always kind of, and when like Kaylee was, 2 months old, it was the bar. we had a baby at the bar.
Well, there you go. There you go. All right.
But like as they get older, it's just like, okay, well, I only got 10, 15 more years to go run around and throw myself, and like I don't want to just sit there and let just be home for the kids and live for the kids, and I think it's paid off in how our kids are, how well-rounded they are.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think the old mentality of as soon as you have kids, you need the white picket fence and the house and the structure, that idea has proven to be wrong so many times now. And some of the most amazing, well-educated, well-rounded people I know were children of fucking vagabonds that are just all over the place and very worldly individuals. And I can't imagine a better education than learning French culture in France, or learning about anything by going there and seeing it and doing it. I mean, fuck me, what a great education.
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, it's like any relationship though, right? If it's a one-sided relationship where one person is just totally catering to the needs of the other, and then you look at not to get too like deep or anything, but when you look at like America or anything in general, like people just stop their lives for their kids, and it's
Sure.
like that relationship doesn't work. It needs to be a give and take,
I
and
agree. I agree, and it's I've always had a long distance relationship with my daughter, and her mother and stepfather do extremely well for themselves and take amazing care of her. So I always kind of made it my job to be the one that took on the adventure side of things, which has been super cool for me because mentally I get to stay an infant
yeah,
and drag my kid around the world and piss off to Italy or go on safari in Africa or throw her out of airplanes, and so she gets all the needs met because she's got the house and the white picket fence, but she's got the crazy dad that wants to run around the whole planet and do cool things with her. So
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I can't see having a better way to go.
yeah, for
So
sure.
so how'd you start working in this sport? If you were just jumping all the time, I mean, you ended up making skydiving pretty much your whole life before the kids and everything.
Yeah. Well, I was into I mean, from snowboarding, I guess I was into competing. So, man, I was lucky enough to my first teammate I had at 300 jumps, and we did jump 300 to Matt Flachet. We did 300 to like 4,000 jumps together,
Oh wow.
and but we were like super like I always see some people take a path, and I looking back on it, I think that was the smartest path because all we wanted to do was train, and we just wanted to train with each other, like
Sure.
literally. So we started competing at USA Nationals like the first, I think maybe the second year we did skydiving,
Oh wow.
and he had a good job too. And I mean, I remember we went to Roger Nelson, and you know we were like, we want to do 1,000 jumps. We went and we lost to Anomaly and Stevie and Trent, who we're super good friends with. But we were like, we're gonna beat those guys, and we went to Roger, and we're like, we're doing 1,000 jumps this year, and we negotiated the price, and then we didn't have to. We didn't have to look for somebody to jump with, find somebody. We just jumped like 20 jumps a day.
Wow.
Like right from the get go, we were just jumping like crazy. And yeah, I mean, I think I did after that. I think the first year I had like 200 jumps, like including AFF. Then it went to 700, and then it was like 1,300, and then like 1,000 jumps
Wow.
minimum for the next like 10 years or something.
So competition was your big drive.
Yeah, and which was weird. It wasn't really the winning of medals that I really cared about. It was just getting better. It was just training. Like it was never any. It's never anything but just wanting to get like better. Better yourself.
So
So it was.
you were gauging your performance on past performance of yourself, not on the performance of others.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, and it was back then it was a three-way artistic. So, I mean the first couple years going into it, we were kind of like, yeah, we wanted to win, but then you kind of realize like you just want to create stuff. And, because it's artistic. So like, I mean, it goes all the way full circle back to tunnel and stuff like that. Like at some point, like, you got to do stuff for yourself.
Sure.
There's going to be a panel of judges, and they're going to judge it, and that's that. But as long as you're able to train and get better, then that was kind of the drive.
Wow. So you really did kind of have a unique time in the sport just because you were able to go straight into competition. You were already self-sufficient, so you didn't do the packing mat. You didn't do the are you a tandem instructor?
No, I never did it. I
So
actually didn't.
never truck
Yeah,
drogues, not AFF either?
I think I got my AFF after I was already on Mandarin when I did it. Only because I think when we were training on Mandarin, so this was after like the 4,000 jumps or whatever.
Right.
I Mandarin was training in Massachusetts in Jumptown, and we were training once a month, and like again it went back to like, well, I don't really want to just do like all we had done was train, so I didn't want to just do fun jumps or whatever. So
Sure.
so I was like, yeah, let me do AFF, and it was really. I did it with Biff Bolin, and it was really fun. It was like the funnest summer ever because we were just clowning around the whole time. It was really great.
Awesome. But I mean, that really is kind of a unique entrance to the sport because most of us, I was lucky enough that I didn't have to do the packing mat, but I certainly had to start shooting video and eventually chucking drogues to be able to stay, at the full-time skydiving level. There's not too many people that can say they're full-time hardcore skydivers that didn't really work in the sport.
Yeah. After Mandarin, all the other teams that had got onto, like it was definitely everybody was full-time professional but me. Like I was working my landscape company and everybody else was, but it was still, I mean, it was crazy. Like I look back on it and I was like, man, what was I? Because I would get up at like 6, go to the business till 1, and then drive out, knock out 10 jumps on Wednesdays, come back, do 2, like 14-hour days at the company, drive there all weekend, do 50 jumps on Sunday. I mean, there was never a day off. It was either jumping or work. I mean, it was just nonstop. I remember being jealous of some of the guys on my team because it like come Monday, they'd like, it'd be like they wouldn't do tandems till like 10 a.m. and I'd be like, man, I haven't not gotten up at, early in the morning for 6 months.
Wow. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think either route's easy, but that definitely sounds like a hell of a lot of work. I mean, you had real world responsibility. Not that, chucking drogues or shooting video or AFF isn't real world responsibility, but it's in the community, it's in the life, so it doesn't feel real, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
So having a real job and playing normal and being part of skydiving, were you a pretty tight part of the community, or were you just a bit of a tourist when it came to bonfires and hanging out and all that stuff?
I spent too much time at those bonfires.
Nice.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, when I was young, we were, more wild. Definitely with the kids, like it started I don't know. I mean, I've done my fair share of partying. Let's put it that way.
Fair enough. Well,
yeah, it's, I don't know. With the kids, it became a little easier, like it just as man, like as you get older, your body just does it, like, I haven't seen a 2 a.m. night, now like I haven't seen an 11 a.m. night.
Oh, no.
But yeah, back in the early 20s, of course.
My greatest talent when it comes to any of that is ghosting, man. I'm fucking amazing. It just where's Dean? I'm just gone.
Yeah.
I have a lot of fun, and then something in my body says, you will regret this for a week if you don't leave now.
For sure. And the key is not to look back. If they see you walking away and they go, hey, where are you going? You just put on your blinders. Don't turn your head. Just keep walking off the darkness.
Don't acknowledge it, because if you do, you're fucked, because then they make it their mission to make sure you're the last one away from the bonfire.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I've had that happen as well. Well, so when you were into all of that, what drop zone were you hanging out at most, or were you bouncing around a lot because you were competing?
No, I was at we started competing at SDC. So pretty much the whole I'm trying to think if I did a year. No, the first year I competed was at SDC. So we stayed at SDC I was there for 11 years, maybe 10, something like that. So and then I would also go down to Z Hills in the winter and organize back in the total body pilot days. So like I spent 5 winters in Z Hills.
Cool.
And it must be like 7 or 10 or something like that at STC. I was on, I think, maybe 3 or 4 different teams throughout the course.
Well, that was definitely the migration route, was to, hit the Chicagoland area and then head south for the winter every year for a lot of people. Yeah. Which was really cool.
It was super cool.
The 4 years that I spent out there, I think I spent a couple of wayward years on the road with the CSC Twin Otter that were less than perfect winters, and then I ended up pissing off to New Zealand, which was another popular spot for a lot of the Chicago guys. I know Steve and Jenny Werner, who were at Skydive Chicago for a long time, would go to New Zealand every year, and that was
and like Cicerelli, and I think Kenny spent some time out there too, huh? They all went out there. New Zealand's amazing, huh?
As a matter of fact, I was with Cicerelli for one season, jumping on the beach with Ballistic Blondes over Paihia in New Zealand, and now he's full time in Australia. He's a fucking Australian citizen.
Is he really?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Cicerelli. He was a super cool dude.
He's a dude, man. Nod to Cicerelli. How you doing out there, Dave?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, very, very cool. Yeah, a lot of people did that bouncing back and forth, and yeah, I lasted 4 years doing the winter to summer thing, and then I just couldn't. Man, I couldn't do it anymore. It just Chicago got to be too much, especially when you were a pay per load or a pay per jump. That feast or famine, man, it got fucking rough.
Yeah, it was with the weather. It's insane, huh? Like, I mean, how are you gonna do? Like, I mean, trust me, that I haven't even thought about jumping yet, just because like I try to limit time on the DZs, you know, and just the weather forecast is just brutal.
Well, we were talking before we started recording. I was just out in the Midwest in Chicago and Ohio, and the weather went from pretty nice to fucking balls cold. And you said it's even worse now.
Yeah, it's awful. I'm looking out the window.
It's the middle of May.
Horrible.
That's oh man, I remember coming back to CSC after a winter on the road with the Otter, praying, please let the weather be good, because my bank account is empty. I'm 20 pounds lighter than I was when I left, and you get back and it's that kind of weather and you're just stuck. Oh man, I talked to Rook Nelson for a while as well, and he said the same thing. He's like, yeah, Midwest is tough, but I'm in a good spot.
Yeah.
He had posted a picture on Facebook of a nice sunny drop zone and green grass, and said it's good to be on the south side was the caption.
Yeah.
Still. Well, now you guys have got the tunnel basically in your backyard where you're at now, though, don't you?
Yeah, it's super sick. Yeah, it's 12 minutes from the house. So 12-minute drive. So it's it's super nice.
Man, did you ever think, well, when did you start flying in tunnels?
I used to go to, I started in Orlando a little bit, but not much. I wasn't a tunnel flyer. When we started doing VFS is when I went out with Selwyn Facey and in New Hampshire. So we went to New Hampshire, and then the VFS team, what was that? Mandarin. We started when Paraclete first. I was just telling somebody that the other day, like we were at Paraclete before they were open. So they were just putting in drywall and stuff. And Denuncio let us train as they were, you know, with like Punisher. And he was like, they were just hiring their staff. It was before they opened doors. So we were training in Paraclete starting out.
Wow.
Back then.
Wow. That's very cool.
I remember being I remember being super jealous of Arizona. Like it just drove me nuts that I didn't have a tunnel in Chicago. Like it really did. Like and that goes back to like the training thing. Like I don't really care about medals. Like I was watching people get better than me flying. Right. And Chicago just didn't have a wind tunnel. Like it drove me nuts. Like I was like, yeah, we were winning medals in VFS, but like Selwyn and Derek, you know, were just flying better than us because they were at a wind tunnel. And I hated the fact Chicago didn't have a tunnel. Like it drove me insane that like, you know, like I didn't care about the medal. I cared about the fact that the sport was passing me by.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I couldn't do anything about it.
Well, especially with as high on competition as you are, for sure. I actually I started out as a wind tunnel instructor in the old Vegas tunnel. Which nice. If you've ever been in that tunnel or in the Pigeon Forge one, it's completely not a wind tunnel by today's standards. It's an amusement ride. It's a really fucking fun one, but it's an amusement park ride by comparison. And so when the big tunnels came out, the first one that I ever got a chance to fly in was the Paraclete one, and I almost broke my fucking neck with Selwyn Facey actually in the tunnel with me. Selwyn, I've apologized on every podcast I've talked to you about. Sorry. He'll understand that.
Yeah.
But
someone won't care.
No.
He's busy chasing chickens in his backyard.
Oh God, I love that guy. He's such a character. Selwyn Facey is definitely. I met him at Cross Keys back in late 2003, 2004, and he made a hell of an impression. He always does. So
yeah, for sure.
So you start flying in the tunnel a little bit late in your sport, but I mean you went on to just dominate in the tunnel.
I don't know. I would say like I've always felt like, I mean, we did VFS, so like yeah, I mean VFS flying, but it wasn't really tunnel flying. So when we got to Dubai and we started to, we won a lot on the VFS team, but you need to be at a tunnel to learn to tunnel fly.
Sure.
And we just weren't there because we would go, we would do camps and you'd just be flying static.
Sure.
So when that was actually a huge part of where it was the reason why I went to Dubai. It was just because I was on a team, we were winning medals, but I knew deep down inside, like people were passing me by, and it's just like I said, I don't care about a medal. I just wanted, if I was in the sport, I wanted to progress.
Sure.
And Dubai had the opportunity to progress. It had the opportunity to keep flying.
The level of skill has just gone through the roof. We've talked about it on previous podcasts that the tunnel has just changed the whole fucking game in such a major way. And I can't think of a single negative to it other than, people will use the argument that the wind tunnel doesn't teach the basic skills some skydivers need in the beginning, and I agree with that. But other than that, the tunnel's fucking incredible. I mean, I still watch in awe what people are doing in the tunnel, and I'm just completely blown away. And I've had the opportunity to see you and one of your teams perform quite a bit, both in the tunnel and in the sky, and it's awe-inspiring. It really is. And I mean, how many hours do you think you've got in a tunnel now?
I don't know. We spent a lot of time in Dubai. Me and Micah used to, in the private tunnel, we would, I remember just like laying on the bench, like just like watching Micah just lay in the air. Like, let's see how long we can just lay in the air, and then he'd get out 20 minutes later and I'd just roll in because we'd be so, tired from flying,
done
as much as we wanted. Yeah. We used to just turn it on ourselves. It was pretty cool.
You're doing a lot of flying when the only reason you're back flying is because you physically can't fly on your belly anymore.
Yeah. For sure.
You can't sit fly anymore, so you roll to your head to give the muscles a break.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So you ended up out there for quite some time, and what was the team you were on in Dubai?
It was Maktoum.
So Maktoum, you guys were like you guys kind of set the benchmark for quite some time.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
That was our goal. I mean, like we kind of I remember me and Micah always had a goal. Like we wanted it to, we wanted what we did to last for 10 years after we were done. And I think it might, I think it's,
I think it's going to last a lot longer than that, simply because a lot of the things that you were doing that were groundbreaking at the time have now become standard fare. Like it's almost you need to learn to do this, this, and this in order to move further on. And the this, and this is all the shit that you guys were figuring out.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's definitely takes longer to figure. I remember one time we did it was when we were doing 6-way, and we were really trying to do like a 6-way layout in the sky, which, and we finally nailed it and we were all like so happy. And then we're like, yay, we did a half eagle. It took like 100 jumps to do, but I mean, it was, but it was really hard to do. So
sure. Well, I remember watching you guys roll out of one of the planes I was flying with a big fucking bungee cord just because you wanted to try and do something different.
Yeah, it was cool. We got to experiment basically, we got to the point where we had checked off all the dynamic stuff that we wanted to, basically at the time, tunnel flying wasn't being done in the sky as much. So we basically wanted to check every type of
Sure.
line, mixer, layout in the sky. And then also just create different stuff. So it was cool. And coming from, going back from a team standpoint of trying to chase medals, for me, that was the perfect icing on the cake. I'd been in the sport for a super long time, so it was a nice way to end it, just having kind of free range.
Sure. I kind of likened Maktoum as a team to, as an individual, Ray Kubiak. Ray Kubiak, in my opinion, was one of the trendsetters in modern tunnel flying for sure.
For sure.
He was the godfather of a lot of the fucking crazy shit that I can't even begin to understand. And you guys as a team were the same thing. Watching you guys as a team doing the shit you were doing was just like watching Ray on his own in the tunnel going, what the fuck did I just see? It was amazing, but holy shit, how did they do that? So it was really cool, but it was neat that you said transitioning tunnel and trying to do tunnel moves in the sky. How hard was that? Because it's not a direct correlation. I mean, it doesn't translate directly.
Yeah, it doesn't. And there's a lot of tricks that we picked up. Like, it's like one of those things like, yeah, if I go to events and stuff and kind of like tell the little tricks we picked up, then it becomes easier. But yeah, like when you're trying to figure it out, it's definitely a little more difficult.
Oh yeah. Now, so by the time you got onto Maktoum, you'd already met your wife.
Yeah.
And did you have both kids at the time?
Yeah, for sure. We were 5 and 7, I think.
So that
maybe 4 and 6.
That must have been a hell of a decision to make. I mean, all right, we're going to take the entire family from. You were living in the Midwest at the time?
Yeah, I was living in Chicago.
You're going to pick up from Chicago, take the wife and 2 very small kids, and you're going to move all the way across the world to the Sandbox.
Yep.
Wow, what kind of conversation was that like?
It was pretty. I tell people this all the time. Like, I wanted to get better at skydiving. I even though I had already won national championships and stuff on the VFS stuff, like it was, like I remember Steve Curtis said something, like some guy was like bitching about, oh, well, this team's sponsored and, like, how am I ever going to compete with that? And they get free jumps and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, you can quit your job and do it.
Right.
It's either important to you or not, like, oh, this tunnel doesn't allow this or this. Well, you can move halfway around the world, don't tell me you can't, because I did.
Yep.
Like you can either do it or complain about other people having opportunities to do it. But if you don't do it, then that's not my problem. That's yours.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. And if you're not getting it done, you didn't want it that bad.
Yep. And that's all there is to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what was it a group decision, or did you just sit down with Julie and go, so I was thinking about moving to Dubai?
Well, like people had started to go over to Dubai and like start telling stories about like, yeah, they're flying as much as they want, like they were, and I think realistically, like I was just looking for a change. Like I was looking for I really was just looking for a tunnel somewhere. I would remember talking to somebody from like Orlando, like, dude, I'll go down to Orlando in the winter and fly.
Sure.
And then I went over there and, it was a way better deal than, once you go over there. And at the time, Dubai was, the skydiving was really growing. So it was, it was a no-brainer. Like it was a no-brainer. Like you just had to go. I could see the opportunity. And with the talks I had from the people in charge, and it was obvious that you could go create and continue to continue to push the sport.
Well, which is amazing. Well, and your decision to go there also kind of took your passion and spread it out across the family, did it not?
Yeah, it was good for Julie. My wife Julie's a skydiver. She's got like 2,000 jumps. She was still into it a lot at the time, and it was good for her to be able to. Yeah, plus, man, we were in Chicago. Like Julie, like I could walk down right now and be like, Julie, we're moving to New Zealand. She'd be like, cool, let's go. Like you spend a springtime in Chicago, you're ready to get out.
Yeah. I can definitely imagine that. Well, so she jumps. I know she jumps because I've actually made some skydives with her. They were far from stellar because I'm a reformed fun jumper. I just discovered that you can actually just jump out of airplanes for fun, which is fucking amazing. It was an incredible revelation when I went, oh, wait a second, I don't have to strap somebody to me and I don't have to have a camera and I can just go laugh and make an idiot out of myself. Cool. It only took me 11,000 jumps to figure that out.
Yeah.
So I got to do that, and I did a few jumps with her like that. But both your kids started flying in the tunnel when you were out there as well, didn't they?
Yeah, they started super young age.
So there's a video that I saw that was my first introduction to true humility, and it definitely put my ego in check. And it was on Vimeo that I saw it, and it's titled 9, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Kaylee's.
That is video. The most ridiculously awesome video. but I have to admit
Thank you.
that never in my life did I think that as a grown man I would be jealous of a 9-year-old girl. But that's kind of what that video did. And there's one part that is my favorite, and I'm sure it makes you laugh every time you see it, is when she talks about learning new tricks, and then once she's mastered it, she has to do it without her hands, and she kind of giggles. That is the most evil little giggle. You just hear it and go, oh, there's the twisting of the knife right there. That's what it's like.
Yeah.
So they've gone on to just kind of rule the world. I've talked about them on almost every single podcast. Anytime tunnel flying comes up, I talk about them for sure. But they're the current champs, aren't they?
Yeah, we finally got the world championship, which was very, man, a lot of emotions for sure. It was a long journey to get there.
It would have to be. Well, they're how old now, respectively?
Kaylee just turned, so Kaylee's 15. Noah's turning 13 in June.
So a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old are the current tunnel world champions.
Yeah, 12. So Noah's still 12. I think, I'm not 100% sure. I was actually asking. I'm almost positive he's for sure like the youngest FAA champion in the world at 12. So
wow.
That's
you got to be bursting at the seams, man. I mean, they're not just because it's in the tunnel. I mean, you would be proud of them no matter what accomplishment that was, but it also happens to be your passion. What does that feel like? That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's insane. Like it's super cool, and to know the work they put in, because they're also, I don't know, like 5-time national champion Kaylee is, and Noah's a 4-time national champion. But yeah, I mean the work they put in, but it's weird as a dad, because you don't you never push the medals. It was always just about the hard work.
Sure. And
so but it's very, very vindicating or relieving because I gotta we had some tough losses the past 2 years, like some where maybe we didn't feel like we deserved to lose, and it's really hard. It starts to flip, man. Like it really does, because then you're like, man, are the kids, they've always done well, like on the national level, which is like insane. Like some people's just goal alone would be to win nationals,
sure.
So it's insane achievement right there. But then as it starts to, you take a really tough loss and then you take another one is just like completely our fault, where it's just like we just got beat. Like those are easy losses
Sure.
to take. Other losses maybe are harder to take. And then you're like, man, they lost 3 big comps that were tough to swallow. And then you kind of second guess yourself, like, man, is my 12-year-old just going to know like these crushing defeats, like, is this teaching him, like that hard work pays off,
Right.
That he's just getting his heart broken, on a world level. So then, just the fact that, and then that all flips when they win it, the world championship, so it's like a sigh of relief, and you're like, whew, hard work did pay off,
Sure.
But for a while there, you start to, guess if you are doing the right thing, because you just watch the kids working so hard.
Of course. Yeah, but obviously, if they had that passion for it, that's what's pushing them forward. I mean, a parent's wanting them to do something only gets them so far, but a kid's not going to push that hard unless they really want it, and clearly they had to want it. I mean,
yeah.
The amount of work that went into it. And I've been able to sit and watch them fly in person a few times, and of course my jaw's on the floor. But to know how much time and how much effort they had to put into it, it's just astounding that they put that much passion into it. It's fantastic.
Thank you. And it's cool. The other thing that was cool is that you watch, like, Noah got hungrier as the past couple of years. It is kind of cool to watch them take over from, like this was actually the first year that they trained for a month by themselves because I stayed in France speed riding. I was getting burnt.
Sure.
Sure. It's a lot of work between the three of and my wife with the 4 of us, and I made the decision like, okay, well, we're just gonna do it online. And I'm, because I would have been miserable if I flew home for a month and a half just to coach my kids.
Sure.
That kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning. So I stayed in France Speed Road, and then they would send me videos every night, and I would debrief them, make notes, and send them back during the time change. But it was really cool how motivated they were on their own.
That is so fucking cool, man.
And it all kind of fit, like winning worlds. Like, I don't know, there's just weird stuff that kind of happened where I was like, man, I think that, this could be, I think this is the one they're going to win,
Wow.
So it was cool to watch them kind of like have to train on their own, have to, really, bring the video cameras, like set up, debrief at night, not have me to say like, hey, you have to do this.
Sure, not the soccer dad thing going on. They're doing it on their own.
Yeah,
That's really, really cool. So when the competition was over, was it a sigh of relief and, okay, cool, now we can just kind of kick back? Or was it, all right, what are we going to destroy next?
They're definitely hungry to keep going.
That's awesome.
Like, really hungry. We'd taken, actually, me and Noah were flying yesterday. We actually flew the last 2 days. So we wanted to, we had been going, I remember last March, we were in Japan, and we felt burnt then. Like we had pushed for like a year and a half, and I remember in Japan feeling burnt. And then we went and did like a competition in, Virginia Beach, a competition in Spain, a competition in Bahrain, and then back to Spain, back to Virginia Beach. We did like 7 other comps. And and I remember like the year and a half before being burnt, like, man, this is a lot. So we're taking we're going to start training really quick, actually. But we took the past month and a half off, and the kids are just being kids, and I'm doing some business stuff, and it's been a nice break. But we're still, like I said, like yesterday, Noah sent me a text at school. He's like, you want to go fly? And I was like, yeah, let's go fly.
That's so awesome. Well, I remember one of the things that struck me as being really cool in the 9 little mini documentary with Kaylee and her younger teammates wasn't even the flying. It was the breaks that they would take and just go be kids and have fun and be doing this amazing stuff. And it also was pretty inspiring in that it broke down any of the social bullshit, which you and I know from years and years of skydiving. At the end of the day, a skydiver isn't French or American or Russian or whatever. It's just a fucking skydiver. And it's the same thing on that international level in the tunnel circuit now, because the tunnels, there used to only be a couple, but now they're everywhere. The list of places you just named off is fucking epic, and these kids are they're getting to go compete all around the world with people from everywhere. That's just awesome. Yeah,
for sure. And they're super tight. We were just sending Elliot a message yesterday. Like, we're super tight with the French guys. Like, get all the French teams. Like, it's they're really like, they've been competing against each other for a long time, sure. And it's just awesome to kind of watch the kids play with their different friends. Some older, some younger. Like, they definitely have a nice, well-rounded.
How has that been, too, for them growing up the way that they have? Because a lot of the drop zone kids I know tend to be very, I want to say, not just very worldly, but very mature, because they spend so much time with adults that are just running around being big kids, but they still are around older people a lot of the time. Are you finding that that's the case with them as well?
Yeah, they definitely know how to handle themselves around adults. Super easy, like it's super comfortable for them. So they've just been, they've been around skydiving forever, huh?
Sure.
So,
well, and it's such a community. The community itself is so welcoming to kids, and they're just future people we get to play with.
Yeah, it's been good. Noah used to be able to spot my canopy when he was like 2, like the actual one as I'd be, flying down.
Sure.
So
now
they've just been on the drop zone forever.
Are either of them aiming sights towards skydiving once they're old enough?
I don't think so. I think Kaylee's been a stubborn little teenager. I think she says no just to say no. Me and Noah really pushed to get her speed ready. But I really don't care. I really actually probably prefer if they don't. I don't want to teach them.
Sure.
I want to, but then I feel I would probably at least go out for some of it.
Sure.
But yeah, if they do it on their own, great. If I think Noah speed riding is like the tunnel flying for canopy.
Sure.
And in like for sure it is, because it has that proximity. And when you think about the hours he has under a wing, I mean, he literally probably has the experience of somebody with like 7,000 jumps under canopy, so there's just, but he's way too young with, there's that whole pole time in skydiving that, I mean, there's no way I would let him till, if he really pushed my arm and if he really wanted to at 16, I'm sure we could make it happen, but I don't care.
Well, now,
I really don't.
With the speed flying and stuff, I remember when you and I were talking about setting up this podcast, I think you were still in France and he was speed riding with you, and you sent me a message that he had just done his first barrel roll.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
part of me was like, that's the coolest fucking thing ever. But then the dad part of me was like, that's insane that he just did a barrel roll. That's got to be kind of tough for you, because at the end of the day, your passion still has a fair amount of danger involved in it.
Yeah, he's definitely learning. Anything I would teach a student, like for example, I had a student over the winter that came out and he experienced swooper, skydiver, a couple of them, different ones. And like I normally with a student say, I want you to do 25 360s, until they're right. Sure. Like with Noah, he did 350. Like everything is times 10 when it comes to the danger. Like it's first, he's had the most safe progression. I think I can honestly say nobody's had a safer progression. And even when he's ready for something, I still hold back like some of the stuff he's been doing, like he was ready for a year ago. Sure. But I still just say, nope, you know what? I set a very calm set of goals. And speed riding's a weird sport, man. It's mentally, you have to be mentally stubborn on your rule set. Yeah. I feel like it's different than anything else because it's just mental. You have to have a set of rules and you have to stick with them. And as soon as you break those rules, and it's real common to break them, like the Mocktoon team, like myself included, I've broken rules and always gotten my own rules, my own set of safe rules. But with Noah, we just don't budge. And he doesn't either. Like he will bring up, he'll bring up, a rule set and be like, nah, Dad, we're going against what we said we were going to do.
See, that's
and
cool.
Then yeah, he's really switched on, like with the safety. He's not aggressive.
Well, and I suppose
he's afraid of it.
I suppose he maybe even inadvertently learned lessons along the way. You've been in skydiving a long time, and as you and I know, people unfortunately don't always, they're not always quite so lucky in our sport. And we've both had people very close to us that haven't survived it. And that's a tough lesson to learn. But even as a kid, some of that's got to trickle through to him, and that, okay, yeah, what I'm doing definitely has its risks, especially when he knows what that loss looks like,
Yeah. He gets it, he's switched on and he's tentative and, and it's made him a really good he's really good. Like he's just as good at speed riding as he is at tunnel.
Oh Jesus, that's a hell of a statement, man. Fuck.
Yeah, he's really good, man. He's fun and he's fun. Like it's really, man, it's I can't as a dad, like when you're up on some of these, like there's this run in Bombao that's like 4,000 meters, and like when you're sitting there, I think the first time we did it was 2 years ago. So he was 11 at the time, and like just sitting on top of that valley, like knowing you're going to go fly that with your son is like insane.
Oh, it's got to be absolutely incredible. I can't even imagine. I mean, I've flown the plane for one of my daughter's tandems, and I jumped with her on the other one. And so I have a small dose of what that's like to see her, in the world that I embraced so long ago. And that's fantastic. But to be able to do this, I mean, fucking hell, that's super cool. But now, what does Julie think of it all? Does she speed fly?
No, she doesn't. We've actually talked about, she's not the strong, she's content like being in the Alps skiing, she snowboards, she skis. But like dead honest, like Kaylee skis, and she's been skiing in this French Alps for 6 years now, and she's a ripper. Like she's a really good skier. Like she skis to the point where, like, I'm like, Kaylee, slow down. I feel more nervous about Kaylee skiing than Noah speed riding. Like I really want to get Kaylee speed riding because I think it's safer than at the speeds she's skiing at. When I follow her, I'm way more nervous than if I'm following Noah down, just because if you make the right calls and you do it on the right days on the right mountain and you're strict about the backcountry, it really is safer than skiing or snowboarding.
I can see that. I can see that for sure.
All the mistakes happen when you make the bad call before you take off. It's just what happens. So I'm trying to get Kaylee in there just because it's like thinking about her skiing all day is more nerve-wracking than thinking about Noah speed riding.
Sure, but she's pushing back on what Dad wants for a while.
Yeah, she doesn't want to. Yeah, like.
Do you think she really wants to, but she just doesn't want to because Dad keeps pushing it?
I think right now she's staked her claim of I'm not doing it, and now she's just being stubborn. Yeah. But yeah, you should see me and Noah. We try to bribe her with ice cream, with crepes, with all sorts of different stuff, and she's like, nope.
That is fucking awesome. That is definitely not your standard family dynamic. Oh, come on, fly the parachute down the mountain. Don't go skiing.
Yeah.
So what does the extended family think of all this? Grandparents and cousins and all this, do they think you guys are nuts, or are they super behind it all?
They're super behind it all. Like, I mean, they, with the speed riding thing, I think, Noah's been doing it for 5 years now, with never one injury. So, I mean, he's been hurt in the winter every time, but it's always when he's on a snowboard.
Fucking things are dangerous.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, they're behind it. They obviously are a little nervous about the speed riding, but now that we're kind of through that, I don't think people realize how much safety, like perfect example, like you could start speed riding for, like you don't need to kite or anything like that, even though it helps. Like we had Noah on a sand dune for 3 years. Kiting with that canopy. Like he knew how to kite backwards, forward, how to put the wingtip down. Like he'd literally like go fly in the in-flight Dubai tunnel, and then Kaylee would start homework and I'd take him out on a dune, and we'd spend 45 minutes like 5 days a week for 2 years under a canopy.
Yeah, I remember seeing pictures.
Yeah, so I mean it's a long process,
Well, but I mean, that's what's keeping it so safe as well. I mean, we've talked about safety in skydiving as well, and you try and explain to people that no, the majority of skydivers are a ridiculously safety-oriented group of people, and the only reason that skydiving ever seems to make it in the news anymore is because some jackass did something stupid and hooked himself into a beer truck or something along those lines. Otherwise, you don't hear about skydiving anymore because it's almost passé. It's so safe anymore. And that's because we put so much into it because we know the price you pay if you don't. That's a great lesson to pass on to a 12 or 13-year-old that's learning how to speed fly his ass off.
Yeah, and I still think skydiving's like, I'm way more concerned about skydiving, and I think skydiving's super safe. But like skydiving is for sure, I feel more dangerous than speed riding. As long as you're under the right tutelage of, the problem is it's not governed. It's just, I mean, anybody can walk out there and go. So you see those same mistakes happen, like back in the day when everybody started swooping and pounding in.
Oh yeah.
And and now like you don't see that as much because you got Flight 1 guys and you got, people teaching the procedures in check.
Sure.
Skydiving to me is like, if something goes really wrong, like, you're only going to have a second or two to sort that out, right?
Oh,
like, like when the deaths happen, it's usually really sudden and unplanned. With speed riding, I feel like you can plan everything before you launch. Like you can look at the weather. If it's not good, you don't go.
Sure.
That your canopy is going to inflate. It's going to inflate before you fly.
Sure.
If you screw up your takeoff and it's not good, you just stop
Sure.
on your skis. So there's a lot of different checks that you can do to keep it safe.
Sure.
Whereas with base and skydiving, sometimes you can be as safe as possible, and it's just going to go bad.
Oh yeah, no, true. Skydiving is a sport where you can absolutely do everything right and still die.
Yeah.
It absolutely can happen. And people have asked me before what my opinion would be about my daughter becoming a skydiver, and it's always a mixed emotions when I'm asked that question, because I've had such a great life in the sport and taken so much enjoyment and passion out of it. I would never want to deny her being able to do these things if she wanted to, but part of me, the dad part of me, is like, oh, I don't, shit, that's kind of sketchy. I don't know if I'd want my daughter doing something dangerous like that. And then the other part of it is, I don't want my daughter on a drop zone, because I know what
I was gonna say the same thing. You don't want your daughter at the bonfire.
Fuck no,
exactly.
man. Fuck
Yeah.
no. I've said it before and I'll say it again. When they asked me before she had made that first jump, I'm like, I'm totally cool with her making a skydive as long as she doesn't have to go to a fucking drop zone to do it.
Yeah. Well, that was the only thing about Dubai where I actually thought that I could see my kids in skydiving, because it's just so, it's not like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Dubai is like, you can have your kid at the drop zone all night long, and they wind up, going on ATVs or something like that, So that was the one place where exactly. But yeah, people ask, like, is Kaylee going to skydive? And I'm like, hey man, I don't need my daughter to have a cocaine problem and
Right.
multiple sexual partners by the
Right.
time she's, like, it's okay if she doesn't.
Exactly.
There's some bad parts of skydiving that are fun when you're in your, like, there's not knocking them by any means, but yeah, as a father of a daughter, it's not really.
Oh,
you
yeah,
don't want to
no.
settle free on a drop zone.
No. The 25, 30-year-old me loved what was going on in skydiving. The
Yeah.
almost 50-year-old in me wants my daughter to have not a fucking thing to do with it.
Exactly.
I had a chance to talk to Melissa Nelson, and she had a vastly different experience growing up in skydiving than a lot of women do, because everybody knew who her dad was. And she told me flat out, she's like, yeah, nobody fucked around with me, because everybody knew the wrath of God was going to come down onto their head if they fucked around with me. So she had a slightly different experience, but most women, it's a little bit different on the drop zone if you're just starting out, because every 25, 30-year-old guy out there sees a new pretty girl walk on the drop zone, and all they're thinking is fresh meat.
Yeah, and it's also tough on the women too, huh? Because like if they're not tutor, I mean, it's just exciting, right? Like it's exciting for any person, huh? So then you go and there's all these interesting skydive guys that are, young guys and traveled the world. So like it's it's a combination that happens it happens all the time,
Oh,
right?
of course
Like
it does.
just-
I'll never forget
So it's,
being at Cross Keys, and I was pretty well into the sport by then, and it was, I think, my second, almost third year at Cross Keys, and this cute girl had started hanging around at the drop zone, and she was talking to a group of people, and after a couple of drinks just blurted out, yeah, I just want to fuck a skydiver.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at her going, well, you're in the right place for that.
Yeah, you're in the right place.
It's not going to take you long. Welcome to Cross
Yeah.
Keys. There's fucking trailers everywhere.
Yeah.
That is the thing, is the big tie to skydiving or base jumping or now tunnel flying, I suppose, is the community is super tight, but it also comes with its own little world. And what passes for okay on a drop zone is not necessarily okay in the rest of the world.
Do you think it's still? I was actually, because I was having the same conversation with somebody out in from California or something, and I forget who it was, but he was hadn't been as around as long as you and I have, and he was like, "Well, I don't really feel it's like that anymore." And I wonder if what's your thought on that? Like, I don't know if that was a time and place where I know at the big drop zones it is, because there's just that many people around, but like somebody had said like maybe it was Oceanside or something where it's like, yeah, it's not really like that. It's
The whole,
I don't know.
the whole male female dynamic.
No, well, just the whole like party and the way we used to party.
Oh no!
Like
I think it's.
I don't know.
I think it's still out there. I just don't think it's as every day as it was. Back in Cross Keys, the biggest party time I had in the sport, Tuesday was a good reason to get super fucked up. It didn't have to be a special occasion. It didn't have to be New Year or Halloween or any of those crazy times. But I still think the big events, and you say boogie, and you know damn well exactly what's going to
Oh
happen
yeah,
at that
for
party.
sure. Yeah, for sure.
I don't know that it's still quite that crazy, but I think the raging parties still, man, some of the wildest times ever have been at drop zones, and I don't think that's going to change. I think I think that's just inherently part of a group of people that are so passionate about doing something like what we do. And like you said earlier, skydiving is a super exciting sport. And I mean, it just gets everybody's blood up. And when the day is done and the sun's gone down and that blood is still raging, there's not that many things to do.
Yeah.
So a lot of that happens. I don't think that's going to change.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I as I get older, obviously, that's about the time when I see that kind of stuff going on is when I split from the bonfire. If I even go to the bonfire, I'm happy to miss all of that. That part of it used to be a huge draw, and the community is still a huge draw. I mean, skydivers are in my family; they have been for 25 years now, or almost 25 years. But that part of it, I'm good without.
Yeah.
Well, and you married with 2 kids, I can't imagine you'd want the craziness.
Oh, not at all. Yeah, I always have hiding spots. Sometimes they find me, but like if I'm working an event, I usually like, hey, you got to have a room that you could lock the door. That's the first key, locking the door.
Right.
Sometimes you just got to resort to hiding.
Right? Yeah. Oh, no doubt, no doubt. Well, I mean, all the drop zones used to have the rule: if you fall asleep with your shoes on, then all bets are off. That kind of stuff. And yeah, I can do without that anymore. At the end of the party, I need to be in my own bed. Yeah. Well, so we know the kids are still hungry and ready to compete and continue taking over the world. What's next for you?
I'm just really into speed riding right now. Like I enjoy skydiving quite a bit because I'm doing it less. But I really, I'm more like I can't wait to go back to France, and I've just been back from France 2 months ago. So I didn't think I would be this. Like it's still like the progression is still there. I'm still chasing some goals. I've checked off a whole bunch of them, but there's still a couple things I want to like continue to learn. And I'm battling the the mental dilemma. Should a 43-year-old be trying flatland barrel rolls or whatever? So it's a constant struggle of like, when are you going to back off? But I'm not there yet. So, and it's nice. It's just for myself. I don't have to speed riding super small. Like there's competitions, but you're definitely just doing it for yourself. Sure. So, and then I enjoy flying, and that's the cool thing about since I left Dubai is like, I can scratch that itch 12 minutes from my house. And then all winter I scratch the itch, which is definitely my main passion right now is speed flying. And, and then I still am able to skydive like 200-300 jumps if I want to. Sure. Through, I booked some events or boogies, and I think I'm going to Canada and some other places this year. And it's just enough. It's enough to, do the jumps when I want to do the jumps. And,
How far down the road do you think it is before you're showing up at tunnels and it's not you what they want to talk to, but your kids?
Oh, that road has been turned 2 years ago.
That's fucking awesome.
43 ain't 23, and that's the cool thing about tunnel though. It's a sport, man. Like, oh, yeah. I gotta be honest. Like, is it a sport? If I'm 43 and I could still be winning stuff, maybe it's not a sport. You know what I mean? Maybe it's not, the kids doing it are super young and like not as young as Kaylee. I mean, there are people as young as Kaylee and know it, but I mean, you're looking at like a 25-year-old, 28-year-old guys that are like full grown, athletes. And I don't have, I'm 43, man. I shouldn't be able to beat those people.
Sure. Yeah, no, I completely agree.
But it's and it's great for me. Like it's it's just been awesome. Like you always want your kids to do better than you. At least that's always my thing. Like I've always wanted to I don't know if you think of your family name or not that I have like some huge, like, well, I guess I have, you just want the nenext generation to do better
Sure.
than you of your kids.
Yeah.
And so I've always felt they were better. Like even in Dubai, because I would watch them, try doubles and triples, flip twists and stuff. And like as our team, like we would struggle with it and they would do it, but their flying wasn't there yet. So it's cool to, like there's no doubts. Noah was just teaching me. I was just in the tunnel yesterday, like, how are you doing that? He's like trying to teach me from the class.
That's fucking awesome. Well, I think the other thing too, especially starting so young, is they don't have the fear ingrained in them that us old fuckers do. Because I go in the tunnel to try and learn something new, and I know already how much it's going to hurt when I slam into the wall, because I know I'm going to slam into the wall. There's no doubt about it. I'm not that good. And the learning portion of it is really fun, but I'm held back by that fear and that trepidation that I have as an adult, where the kids get in there and just start hucking shit because they don't know they shouldn't be able to do it, so they just do it.
Yeah,
which is amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. And we've also found that, that's actually because Kaylee and Noah have been coaching now. And I've seen it from like watching them interact with other kids. Like the coaching goes kind of like through the roof when they're working with a young kid, because the young like student like looks at the kid and says, oh, that kid can do it. And they don't know anything about, the time it took or whatever. But if it's like tangible and it's like another 12-year-old is doing it, they're like, the little 12-year-old thinks they can do it, and then their progression goes through the roof.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah,
that's cool too.
There's a lot to be said for not knowing you shouldn't be able to do something.
Yeah, for sure. Right?
I didn't know I shouldn't be able to do that, so I just fucking did it, which is absolutely fantastic. So they're coaching now as well. Oh, man. See, I would be totally down to be coached by either of them, but I don't know if the adult me could get past the shame involved.
Yeah. Well, it's weird. Coaching's a whole different demon. And like, realistically, like, man, the whole project's a lot of work on. Like, for the past 3 years, we've been teaching them how to coach. Like, it's not, and it's just now, like, I'm still because it doesn't matter how badass you are if you're not good at, there's always like good coaches. Like I've always said, there's not one good coach whatsoever. It's how you relate to your student.
Sure.
And you can take 2 world-class coaches and one student could just gravitate to that style. And that's okay. As a coach, you should never feel like you're the best coach, because that's just not true. It's personalities you're trying to mix up with other students. And some may like, you got to be a good coach first, but then somebody just may relate better to, one of the many good coaching styles.
Oh, yeah. I knew that from being an AFF instructor long ago, that some students I just gel with and others were going to gel better with, one of my coworkers. And it just boiled down to me being able to associate better with one person or another. And neither me or my associate were better AFF instructors than the other. We just worked better with specific students.
Yeah, for sure. So, they have to learn that, but they've been doing it for the past 3 years, like 3 years we've been working with students, and we take it just as seriously as we take, the training for the championships. Like we'll sit there and debrief their coaching.
Sure.
And debrief my coaching and also get feedback. And it's also interesting too, because some students, like we do a lot of work with kids, we do work with adults. Some people like, sometimes the kids will be like, I'm afraid of Mike, he's so big. That was like, I want to work with Kaylee, and then, sometimes it's vice versa, like, so it's interesting to see how that whole dynamic plays out. But it's also cool because there's definitely, between me, Kaylee, and Noah, there's 3 completely different coaching styles.
They're going to find the right style. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you can easily just move them around.
It's got to be interesting, too, to watch their progression as they coach more, because the more you teach, the better you become yourself. I learned that, especially when I started doing AFF or teaching somebody how to fly a new plane. My skills would improve because I would have to mentally break down exactly what I was doing in order to impart that information to someone else. So you've got to see some changes in their flying as well, don't you?
Absolutely, 100%. And that's why we started it early, because you're not going to be at a world-class level unless, the coaching just and it also slows things down. Whereas when the kids are training, they maybe don't have time to work on their, like maybe a style point that they struggle with. But then when they're working with a student, they are teaching those fundamentals, and then they can go back and correct that.
Sure.
And I could agree with that statement more. And that's part of the, like, I think where they've really taken off is, once you, and the same thing happened with me, like when I had speed rode for like 4 or 5 years. And I remember teaching Noah and Kaylee how to kite made me hands down a better kiter.
Oh, sure.
So it couldn't be more true.
I found that out the first time that I was teaching a friend of mine how to fly a different type of aircraft, and having to break down the process of what I was doing in which stage of flight, and what flows I was using, and just the little nuances that I didn't think about because I learned it over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of repetition. I now had to figure out how to tell someone, oh, this is what I do here. And then it dawned on me, fuck, I never actually thought about that. I just did it. So it was really, really cool, and it definitely made me a more observant pilot. So it's got to do the same for their flying, which is fucking cool.
Yeah, it's been super good with that. It's been, really enjoyable as well. So we do a bunch of kid camps, and the kids are working on a 4-way team.
Wow.
That they're going to do a player coach team of just Ripper kids anyway. So it's fun, and it's going to be good.
Where do you see the tunnel going in the future? I mean, down the road, I can't imagine it's going to not end up in the Olympics. It's going to have to. I know it didn't this time around, but where do you see it long term?
I don't know. There's some. iFly's putting. They got a whole new team in place, and I believe in them quite a bit. And I think that they've, some of the ideas they've expressed are really cool. I think the competitions are going to be really cool. Just to this day, they're the most competitive things. Like if you compare them to, skydive, or to this day, like every year it seems like every year or two there's like $100,000 purse for the past 8 years. So I mean, it's going in the right direction. Not that money makes it, but it just seems like there's more. Like there's never been 100,000. Well, aside from in Dubai,
Sure.
like there's not normally like $100,000 skydive competitions. So I think that it's moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
It's nice because tunnels are in nice spots.
Yeah, right.
That's the one thing I like about tunnels. Like you go to how many times have you been to like a world, you're like, oh sweet, we're going to Brazil for a world championship, and you're like an hour outside of the cool cities,
Right.
like in a farm field, right?
Right.
Every skydive competition is like that, right? You're just like an hour away from, like, oh, we're going to Russia, but like you're in a cornfield.
Right.
And at least tunnels are really cool because they're in places that are really cool.
Well, and they're sprouting up
know?
absolutely everywhere. Every time I turn around, there's a new tunnel somewhere. When I was talking to Kubiak, he was like, dude, I don't even know how many fucking tunnels there are anymore. And he's like, the performance is getting more and more and more. He told me he went to fly Japan, and he's like, the Japan tunnel fucking scared me because I'd be flying on my head, and they got this thing maxed out, and if I would just inhale, I'd start going up. He's like, it's fucking crazy how fast these tunnels are. So as the flying progresses, the tunnels themselves are even still progressing, which is crazy.
Yeah, and they're getting bit. There's so many like 18 footers, and
Right.
like, man, when at France there you could like draw a circle, and I think there's like 8 tunnels in the area of like an hour and a half drive, and they're all big ones too. Like, it's cool.
Well, and
super cool to watch.
He was talking, Ray was talking about one of the things that he's really pushing for. Obviously, it's a very expensive thing to do. So the average soccer mom or soccer dad going out and being able to fly their kids in a tunnel to the point where they're going to get not just competent, but at a competition level is very difficult for a lot of people to do. And he was talking about different ways to try and make it more affordable for the more average family whose kid decides they fell in love with that, and finding ways to split time with groups and do all that kind of stuff. So I hope to see it going that direction as well. So it's a little bit more welcoming on the wallet for moms and dads.
Yeah, for sure. You got to get it, you got to get them to that point where it's almost like going through AFF, right? Like you have to spend, or getting into skydiving. You have to go through AFF, you have to buy gear.
Yep.
And then after that, it's $25 a jump.
Yeah. Which is
whatever.
Once you get there.
Once you get through the tunnel checkoffs and you can fly with 4 people, you can do a dynamic 4-way team, and you're splitting it 4 ways, and then it's really cheap. It's just, you got to get there.
Yeah.
And that takes the same investment as buying a rig. You know, it's almost like you got a 15 grand up front, and then, you know, which is a lot, dude. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, man. Well, what was the old joke back in the day? Skydiving is what, $200 for your first jump and half your income for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
was
for sure.
was about right. I mean, unless you start working in the sport, that's about it. But I suppose if you get to the level where your kids are, if they want, they've got careers for life in that sport. I mean, you don't win worlds and not be able to write your own ticket.
Yeah, I mean, they would have some opportunities if they want to continue to you know, follow that path.
Sure.
If they want to, you know, the way I always tell them is like, hey man, if you want to go to college, just do it next to a tunnel. Like everybody else will be like tending bar or something, and you can do like 2 hours of coaching and have your whole free, you know, like they definitely have a nice set, you know, to either follow that road or, you know, follow their own path or do whatever really they want to do. So it's, and they see that.
Yeah, it's kind of nice at their age to have a skill set in their back pocket that is going to earn them money whenever they choose to go that route, or always to have it as a fallback. I mean, for most people, it's something like bartending or washing dishes as a fallback. But you're right, going and coaching for a couple hours in a tunnel at a world-class level, that's a better choice.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow, man.
Definitely.
I'll tell you what, man. I can't. The success that they've had and the hard work that you guys put in couldn't have happened to a nicer family. You guys have.
Oh, thanks, man.
You guys have been going hard for a long, long time now, and I wish you nothing but continued huge success in whichever direction they choose to go, and the speed flying, and hopefully you manage to get Kaylee on a wing.
Yeah.
Get her off the mountain. So where can people go to follow their exploits, to see some of their tunnel routines? If you guys got a website up, if you got Instagram, anything like that?
Yeah, they both got Instagram accounts, and just Kaylee Noah Wittenberg. And then there's a Aspire Athletics on Facebook that we try to like put out info on camps and the kids club information and stuff like that. So the kids are on there.
Awesome.
It's all good.
Awesome. And they can find you flying down the mountain in France.
Yeah, there's US Speed Ride Tours on Facebook that has the information on all the, you know, the lessons and everything you can get if anybody's interested in speed riding. It's something that we do year round in France, or I'm sorry, all winter long in France. And then we also team up with Dave Hubert from Savoba, and we do like an American invasion of speed riders in Val Juice second week of March, and that's always fun.
Oh,
and that's been growing quite a bit. So that's been there's more information on that on the website too.
Well, it sounds like the adventures and the travel for you are not going to be slowing down anytime soon, which is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, gotta keep it up for a couple more years
awesome,
till the body totally breaks down.
Yeah. Well, it'll happen eventually, but keep going as long as you can, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, cool. We'll give Julie a big hug for me and a high five to the kids. And Mike, it's been a real pleasure catching up with you.
Yeah, man. Thanks. I appreciate it as well.
Absolutely. You take care of yourself.
Okay.
See ya. Well, there you have it. Another episode of the Lunatic Fringe podcast, brought to you as always by, well, wait, not as always, actually. Brought to you now by Gyro. Formerly known as NZ Aerosports, you'll head to gyro.com for their next level line of canopies. By Pussfoot, the Extreme Sports Collective. Head over to pussfoot.com to check it out. By Summit Parachute Systems, check out summitparachutesystems.com to talk to Jarrett Martin and the gang about kick-ass pilot rigs, rigging courses, and more. By Flyaway Indoor Skydiving, go to flyawaytn.com and check out all the cutting-edge stuff to come. By Pure Spectrum CBD, head to purespectrumcbd.com to check out their wide range of CBD products. And as for us, head to the lunaticfringepodcast.com to listen to any of the hundreds of episodes currently available, hit the link for our YouTube channel, pick up your copy of the Lunatic Fringe book or The Accidental Stripper, and get a sneak peek at upcoming guests. Once again, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
jam.